The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you.
Call security!
What's up? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, and from the Rizzuto Show on 105.7 The Point in St. Louis, Patrico is on Hoppe Hour. What's up, man?
Yeah, buddy. What's happening, brother?
How's it going, man? How has everything been with the show?
Dude, it's been incredible, man. It's been a ride like none other, and it's awesome to see that not only people from the St. Louis area, where we broadcast out of, are into this show. People like yourself across the country, man, they're really digging it.
Well, what I like about Riz is it seems like you guys put in so much work into the show. It's hard to call a show perfect, but you guys just do it in such a flawless way.
You know what's funny, dude? And I tell everybody this. They always say, the number one question I get is, how do you guys know what to talk about? And the funny thing is this. The amount of preparation that we do, honestly, if the internet went out tomorrow, internet goes down, newspapers stop being delivered, every source of information is gone, we could probably still do the show for a couple months. We have that much stuff on the back burner, just in preparation, so that we know exactly where things are, so when a topic does come up, we've got things to go back on. And the preparation just makes conversation that much easier, man.
So how do you guys archive it? Do you print it out and then put it into a folder? How do you guys archive all the prep?
It's funny, like, Riz has got this old, rickety, cabinet that has been at our radio station for years. I think when he got it, it had, old broadcast tapes of some demo of a commercial guy from years ago, and I'm talking 20, 30 years ago, and now, that's what we use as our backup in case anything does happen. We have everything we need in this rickety old cabinet that sits in our office.
What's the key to finding prep that you can use at any time? How do you guys find it?
Yeah, you know what, man? There's so many different websites out there. There's so much information out there. You just got to weed out the websites that aren't so great and the websites that are really great. And, there's all the ways from, your standard websites, you can go to your TMZs and get the celebrity stuff. And you can go to your CNN and your Fox News and all that stuff and get the political, the political conversational stuff. But there's so many little websites how Gawker used to be, Deadspin, all those that have stuff that you don't necessarily need to talk about today, but down the road, all that stuff's going to come in handy.
So, did you guys feel any pressure about 3 years ago when you had to build the new morning show, or did you guys know in your heart that it would work out?
You know what? Myself and Riz, we've been friends for a long time now, and adding Moon to the show and adding Burton to the show, again, all four of us are friends, so that made the transition really easy. But I'll be honest with you, I was scared to death, man. Of course, we had a number one morning show in St. Louis, and then one of the main contributors to that left and went to the West Coast, and here we are going, what's next for us? We knew that we were going to stay true to our roots, exactly who we were, and we were nervous that were people still going to be there with us, or were they going to bail out? And fortunately for us, everybody stuck around, and, things have never been better.
Why do you think the listeners just keep on listening to you guys and keep going to 105.7 The Point in the mornings?
I mean, locally here, it's easy to say because we're live, we're local, we talk about stuff that happened, in this guy's neighborhood, in this girl's neighborhood. But as far as, people that have stuck around with the podcast, that nationally, and people, why they stick around is because the number one thing I hear from people is when they say, it sounds like they grab a bar stool and they just slid up to our table and they're joining the conversation with us. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that driving to work by themselves, they're talking to their radio like they're in the studio with us, because we try and make things as conversational as can be, because we want you guys not only just listen to the show, but we want people to be able to interact, to be able to go to the office and go, hey man, for example, myself and Moon yesterday got into almost a screaming match over cookies versus wafers. Who fights over that? Only the fat guy. But still, it's one of those things where you can go to work and you can have that argument with a coworker.
And then you guys did the list of the top 100 snack foods, and normally any other morning show would bore me with that, but it's some way that you guys all conduct the segment where it's fun to listen to.
Yeah, all four of us are very passionate about everything. Now, you won't meet a person that says, oh, yeah, he doesn't really have a strong opinion on that. We have strong opinions on everything. And especially me being the big guy on the show, I got strong opinions about snack foods, man, and there were close to some punches being thrown in that studio, but contained myself, and I let my words be the weapon, and I think we got a pretty solid 100 list out of that.
When was the time you were actually close to going to blows potentially with anybody on the show? Has there ever been a moment where you've gotten that mad?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I don't think it's ever been really, come to blows with anybody. With us being so close, I mean, like, I consider all three of those dudes my brothers. Like, they are my brothers. I mean, if you think about it, I see them more than I see my family. I'm with them 8 hours every day, sometimes 9, sometimes 10, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. So, of course, you're going to fight and you're going to yell. But I think every single time there's a huge argument between one of us, it may stew over for a couple hours. But by the end of the day, we're all cool. Everybody's brothers. It's one of those things where I got hot-headed, you got hot-headed, we're cool.
You hear very often, you guys bring it up, and then Riz even admit it, that he gets anxious very easily. Is that a bit, or is that actually how he is off the air at times?
Oh, dude, Riz is a very, very anxious, paranoid guy. There's no doubt about that. I think when people meet him and they go, oh, man, that's got to be just a joke. That's got to be a gag on the radio. And then they talk to him a little bit, and they're like, holy crap, that's not a gig. This is really how he is. And you know what? He's self-admitted that way. And I think a lot of that, especially with the paranoia, has built Riz to be the person he is. He will double-check. He will make sure everything's good to go. And that's where I think a lot of his prep antics come too, because he's prepping so hard because he's paranoid that the computer's going to go away or that the internet's going to go down. So he's got to have that backup plan. So as many people look at it as a detriment, I think also it's helped him out in the long run too.
So now, every morning show has to get up in the morning, but it seems like you guys are the ones that do all the gigs at Hot Shots, and then you're the hype man for the Blues, so you guys don't get a lot of sleep. And now, for me, I'm a guy that needs my sleep, or I'm not able to function, and I look up to how you guys were able to function without sleep. So how do you guys do it?
My answer is simple. I nap like a toddler. When I get home, I get home 12:31, 2 o'clock, and I'm taking a 2 to 3 hour nap every day. If I didn't do that, I don't know what I could do, because on average I get about 3, maybe 4 hours of sleep, depending on what's going on the night before. So I come home, I'm taking a socks off, pants off nap. I'm getting under the covers. I tell the missus and the kiddos to leave me alone, and I'm snoozing.
How awesome has your wife and kids been, or are there times that they just keep you up and you're not able to sleep?
Oh, man, they're great. I mean, especially I got real little kids, man. I got one that's almost 2, and I got one that's 3 months. So, it's a little tough for them to, it's tough to tell a 1-year-old, like, go to bed. They're going to be up when they're up. But they're great, and especially my wife's killer, dude, because if she knows that I'm sleeping and she knows that I got to give a little bit of a nap and the kids start getting crazy, she gets up with them, she goes and, gets them out of here so, I can get my rest.
So, even though you guys aren't the edgiest show, sometimes your topics get a little bit edgy. So, are you going to be embarrassed when your kids are able to look up the show in 10 years, or will you say that's just dad and his friends having fun? That's what I've wanted to wonder about people on radio, is when you have edgier shows, are you going to be able to explain it to your kids?
Yeah, there's some things on the show that we talk about that obviously I definitely don't want my 10, 11, 12-year-old kids when they grow up to listen to. But when they get older, and if they somehow happen to stumble upon an old podcast and they go, Dad, what was this all about? Then, you're going to have to explain, like, hey, this is entertainment. This is, especially being in radio, you open up yourself to the world. I could be a bricklayer, and I could live a very quiet life and never have to worry about my kids finding out anything about me. But this is the profession that I've wanted to do forever. This is the profession that has got me to where I am today, and hopefully will, even exceed that in the future. And it's just something you got to take the good and you got to take the bad, and that might be one of those things where it's a little bit closer to the bad side. But we'll see what happens when we get there.
And you know what's cool, too, about talk radio is the fact that we have some of the best fans in all of media because they're hardworking guys, like you said, that lay bricks, that mow lawns, that do any of those hardworking jobs, and talk radio makes their days so they never tune out because we somehow entertain them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, dude, for sure. We've got, and that's one of my favorite things about the events that we go to and the chance that we get to meet everybody. We've got what I like to call people that do the dirty jobs to the doctors. You know, the guys that clean out your sewer, the guy that plunges your toilet when you're backing up, the guy that comes and cleans, you know, the gristle off of the disgusting parts of the kitchen, all the way up to the guy that does brain surgery. We reach everybody, and that's the thing I love the most, because these are people in my life, my regular life, my everyday life. I wouldn't meet these guys, but now, because we have this medium of radio, because we have this connection, we're like friends before I even say hello to them.
What is the weirdest time you've ever met a listener? Has there ever been a time that was very awkward or odd?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a whole bunch. One of the weirdest was, I don't have one right now, but usually I have a big, giant, weird beard. The thing's ridiculously long, damn near ZZ Top worthy. And a guy, when he met me, before shaking my hand, before saying hello, ran his fingers through my beard. And I looked at him very politely, and I said, "You do not touch my face. Please do not touch my face." And this guy was so obsessed with my beard, every chance he got, he would walk away, and he would come back and run his fingers through my beard. And it got to the point where I was so creeped out, I had a feeling that this guy wanted to take me home, skin me, and use my skin as a blanket.
That's weird because we have a lot of weird fans down here as well. Like, we have people that, like, don't even live anywhere. Like, we have people that live in a van, and one of the guys took a picture of me and my girlfriend getting food at McDonald's. So radio sometimes brings out the weirdest listeners and people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are times where I'll be walking through the aisle of a grocery store, and then the next thing I know, I get in my car, I come home, I pull up my phone, I pull up Twitter, and there's a picture of me getting milk. It says, "I saw Patrico." Like, dude, just come up and say, "Hey, man." Like, you don't have to be creeper sniper with your phone, bro. Just come up and say, "Hey." We like to talk to everybody. We like to meet those people. It's a little creepy when you get, to be that phone sniper. We just much rather you come up and say hey to us.
The same thing happened to me when I worked for Rover in Cleveland 2 years ago. Everybody would be like, "Oh, I saw Hoppe at Target or Aldi's," but nobody ever came to say hi unless it was at a bar. So it wasn't like I felt famous because I wasn't, but you would just go, "Man, what if somebody took a picture of me right now?" You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I definitely understand you, brother.
It gets weird, too, because a lot of times in these markets like Cleveland or Tampa or St. Louis where they're really into their radio, I feel like at times the listeners can't tell what's a joke and what's not, so they take it very seriously at times. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. There's a lot of times where we may, I don't even want to say make fun of, I'll say poke fun of, or just give crap to a listener that calls in, and the next thing you know, we've got a 1,700-word essay on why they don't agree with what we talked about. When, in reality, if you think about it, all we're trying to do is spark discussion. We want you to be engaged in the show to where you reach out. You may have some opinion on whatever we're talking about. We may have a different opinion. We're not trying to be malicious. None of us go on the air and go, "Let's be malicious and let's really piss off this community or this person." That's not what we do. Will we anger some people? Sure. However, that's not our intention. We don't go out looking for fights. If fights happen, we try and address them, try and move past it, try and let everybody have their voice. But other than that, man, we just try and entertain and spark discussion, and sometimes that gets a little out of hand.
Why do you think people get so outraged and offended by everything, or as you guys say, butthurt in 2017?
You know what? That's because that's the way that society is now. I just look at the fact that when I was a kid and I was playing, a sport, I was on a baseball team, and we would have a baseball tournament. If we came in first place, you got a trophy. If you came in second place, you got a medal. If you came in third place, you got a medal. If you came in fourth through eighth place, you didn't get a damn thing. Now, they don't even keep score in baseball at that age, which is ridiculous. So imagine how people are so butthurt today. Fast forward 10, 15 years from now, it's going to be insane when Sally goes and interviews at a job and doesn't get the job and then tries to sue the company. That's where we're headed right now, which is insane.
Here's what I want to know, too, is you guys at times, of course, can be edgy and outspoken, and then you guys will read the hate mail on air. Does your program director or any of the bosses ever get actually worried about the hate mail you'll get, or are they able to laugh at it?
I mean, I don't want to say that they're just able to laugh at it and shake it off. I mean, obviously, if somebody has an issue with the program, the boss isn't going to go, oh, well, no worries about that. I mean, they're going to read it and everything. But 9 times out of 10, if somebody emails us with some sort of hate mail or some sort of a problem with the show, if we read it or if we reach out to them privately and have a 5-minute conversation with them, it goes away. Because a lot of times, if people are driving in their car, we say something they don't approve of, they get to wherever they're going, and they immediately type an email and hit send. They sit on it for a few hours, and then they go, I probably might have overreacted a little bit. And that's primarily, that's what the majority of the emails are.
Isn't it kind of a sad life to think that because of what we say behind the microphone, they actually take the time to open up the computer, type it out, read what they said, and then send? Isn't it sad that people get that mad over spoken word on the radio?
You know what? It is funny that people do that, but at the same time, that means we're doing something right. You know, like I said before, we're trying to invoke that emotion, that connection, that discussion. And when things like that happen, that means that whatever we did is working.
Why do you think St. Louis gets such a bad vibe and reputation? Because I went there about 2 or 3 years ago, and I loved it. I loved the Fox Sports Bar in downtown St. Louis. I was at one of the nice hotels. I love the pizza place you guys have there. It's not coming to my mind. I love the dough bread. I mean, everything about St. Louis I loved. I wouldn't mind working there someday. But I feel like the media is just really hard on it. Why do you think St. Louis gets such a bad rap?
It's a Midwest town, man. It's in the Midwest. People say there's nothing in the Midwest. And plus, the stories that you do see on the news that make the majority of St. Louis known are things like Ferguson, Missouri, where that is a small community in St. Louis where, yes, there was some things that happened there, but that's immediately what people associate with Missouri or with St. Louis. So now they think, well, St. Louis is violent. St. Louis is in the Midwest. St. Louis has got to be boring. And what do they got? The Arch? Okay, I got it. But there's so many cool things to do, like you said, when you come in here. The Hill community, which the next time you come by, you got to go down to the Hill. I mean, it's a small little Italian town where, I mean, it's incredible. The food, the shops, everything is great there. The Soulard area is awesome, where all the restaurants, all the bars, there's so many different little areas in St. Louis that are absolutely fantastic. And once people do come to St. Louis, they go, man, that's a pretty cool town. And everybody else just kind of goes, wow, you went to that violent city. That's crazy.
That's how it is for me. I'm from Chicago, and I was talking to my girlfriend's grandpa, and I told him I'm from there, and he's like, oh, that's where all the murders happen. And it's like the Midwest just has this weird rap right now, and like the Midwest is some of the best parts of this country because it's got heart, and people care about everything in their towns. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. And, of course, St. Louis and Chicago and Detroit, all Midwest cities, all in the center of the country. And, yes, they all have the whole thing where, Detroit's a very dangerous city. St. Louis is a very dangerous city. Chicago, a very dangerous city. But guess what? That's small parts of the downtown area. The towns are a lot bigger than that. It's not just, you say Chicago and, yeah, okay. But Chicago's huge, man. Not all of Chicago is violent. Not all of St. Louis is violent, and not all of Detroit is violent.
Here's what's weird about St. Louis, which is what I talked to Riz about when he came on my show a few months ago, is you'll think you're in a nice part of St. Louis, and then you get off at the wrong exit, and then you go, okay, I should probably make a U-turn. That's what's weird about St. Louis is because it's not the biggest town. I feel like you can get into the bad parts real quick.
Yeah, well, that's what I always say. No matter who you meet in St. Louis, like let's say you have a business meeting with somebody in St. Louis, regardless of where you are in the area, within an hour you can get to them. And some of the areas are really, really nice. And I'm talking, multi-million-dollar homes. Some of the areas, not so great. You better not fully stop at stop signs. But that's the beauty of St. Louis, is that there's so many different towns, so many different communities in such a small area.
So, how has it been as your first year for the Hypeman for the St. Louis Blues? How has everything been?
Dude, it's been incredible, man. At first, the crowd was a little I wouldn't say hesitant, but they were confused. They were a little shocked because if you think about it, I was the first new face or voice that the organization has brought in 10 years. So I think the shock of people like, who is this big giant fat guy with a huge beard, and why is he yelling at me? I don't understand what's going on. But now, as the season wraps up, the last game is on Sunday before the playoffs. I've been accepted by the Blues community, and it has been literally one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I'm a huge hockey fan to begin with, and now that I get to work in an arena and get to know some of the players, get to know some of the guys that do the behind-the-scenes stuff, dude, it's been a blast. It's been a wild ride, and it's been incredible.
One time here in town, they had me dress up as the Rocket Man, one of the official mascots for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I was on the Jumbotron in one of the playoff games, and I was like blowing kisses at the Red Wings, and it was a lot of fun. Dude, isn't it awesome when you're on the Jumbotron and you're just moving and you know that everyone's watching you? It's just an unreal rush.
Yeah, man, it's just like being at an event, like a major concert. Like we hold Point Fest every year. And, you know, getting up on the stage and announcing a band in front of 22,000 people and have them cheer for you, it's a rush, man. I've done this for 10 years now, and every time it's still a massive rush to me. And that's exactly the way I feel when I'm at the games. You know, there's 40 games, 40-plus games every year, and I still feel every time that they go, all right, go Patrico in my earpiece, and I see me up on that screen, I'm like, holy cow, I remember going to these games as a child, and now here I am, the guy that's talking to everybody in the stands.
What brings you more nervousness? Would it be talking on air to your three friends or going to Point Fest or working the Blues game? Because for me, at least when you're on air, you like to pretend that nobody's listening to ease your pressure like I do, but I feel like I would overthink if I was in front of 22,000 people, you know?
Dude, on air, that comes natural because, again,
yeah.
like you just said, there's three people. It's like a conversation with three of my buddies. Sometimes you get so comfortable you forget that you're on the air. Point Fest, I've done so many of those that, you know, and that's our element. That's our show. So people are there because we told them to come to, you know, the Points Radio Festival. So that's nothing. As far as the Blues game is concerned, dude, there are people that have been Blues fans and season ticket holders for 50 years. So these are diehard hockey fans that they don't like change. So when I came in, they were like, who is this guy? So that makes me more nervous than anything because I, being a hockey fan, just want to have fun and just want to go there and make sure everybody else is having fun. I don't want to take away from the game. I don't want to make the game about me because in reality, I'm just there to make sure when there's a commercial on TV and they're looking for something to do in the stands, I'm the guy that's going to keep them somewhat entertained, and that's my job. So that makes me way more nervous than any of the other stuff.
Now, it seems like you and Riz are good friends. Has Riz ever told you that he was proud of you?
That's a good question. I don't think he necessarily has said, like, hey, man, I'm proud of you. But he said in his very Riz way that he is. You know, like, when he said to me, like, hey, man, that was a great game. That was extremely creative. That was awesome. To me, I take that in translation as Riz saying, hey, man, I'm proud of you for doing that, you know? And I think, without saying, the fact that he gave me the opportunity to go from producer to co-host, that right there, and then eventually, you know, not even just co-host, but, like, here we are, like, me and him are working together on absolutely everything. Like, I feel like that right there, without even saying a word, is him saying, hey, man, I'm proud of you, and now I am, you know, so confident in you that you can do this.
So what are some plans and ideas you guys have talked about for the future of the show?
Well, I mean, lately we've been having a lot of guests in. We've been having a lot of comedians in that have been coming through. Before, we never really did that. Now we're having some guests in, and they're really, really adding to the show. It's great to talk to these guys that have been, you know, either up-and-coming comics or been in comedy for a long time, or movie stars, you know, actors, actresses, it's even athletes. It's a lot of fun with having them in. There's going to be so much that goes on with this show coming up. We have, like, different events planned, that events for, you know, just the adults, events for the family. It's crazy, man, because everybody that listens to the show, all they want to do is they want to hang out with us. They want to just be with us and be around us. and sometimes being at a bar on a Friday night at 9 o'clock at night, you can't go because you got your kids. Well, we got events for the whole family coming up, which I think is awesome because here we are, like you said before, an edgier show, but we don't have to always be edgy, and we can hang out with you and your family. And I think that's one of the most exciting things that we've got coming up is this stuff that revolves around the community.
And what I love what you guys are doing, too, is what Moon's doing with the podcast, with the Weekend Review and the interviews and all the production you guys are putting in. I actually gave you guys credit via Twitter. I'm now doing a Best of Hoppe Hour each week where I introduce each segment. And I feel like when you put in that little more work, it makes the show sound better and your listeners can relate more. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, dude, our podcast used to be, here's the 4 hours of the show condensed down. You can download it, 24 hours, it goes away. Moon has worked his ass off to make this thing just incredible because now it's a one podcast where you just hit the download button, you listen to it. At the end of the week, if you missed anything, you download that. It plays every best part of the week that you missed. And on Saturday, he recaps some interviews that we did. It's incredible, man. And eventually, I know that it would be great if at some point down the road, I know Riz was interested in this, is that we could have almost like a podcast channel where we reach out to our friends that have podcasts and we put them on like the Riz Show podcast channel because we know that this podcasting is now. That is the in thing now. It's easy. It's a way to get your media to other people across the country, and it's so beneficial. So that's one thing that we've stepped our game up, and we're just cruising from here, man, and definitely going to excel at everything because Moon is just an incredibly creative, incredibly hardworking guy, and the podcast is going to do nothing but go up.
Now, before I let you go, where can people find your work online and on the radio, and why should they tune in?
It's easy. You can stream us live online, 1057thepoint.com. If you want to get directly to the Riz Show, it's 1057thepoint.com/Riz. We're on all social media platforms, so you can hit us up there. You can subscribe to that podcast that I was just talking about, which is great. It's very entertaining. And the reason that you should tune in, and I tell this to everybody when they say, why should I listen? Because, ladies, you should tune in because we're not going to sugarcoat things. And you're going to basically get a glimpse into what four guys hanging out at a bar, watching the game, what they get. And fellas, you should tune in because we are going to talk about things that you talk about with your buddies. And now you listen to our show, and then you can take that and then move on to the conversation with your friends, with your coworkers, with your family when the show's over.
Well, dude, keep up the good work. I listen to you guys every day when I wake up, and I wake up around 11 a.m. because I go to bed late. You guys are one of the first shows that I tune into via podcast, and whenever you guys have a new show, I get very pumped. I love the opening intro. I love every part of the show, so it's been a lot of fun having you on.
Well, brother, I appreciate it, man. Anything you need from us, you let us know, dude.
All right, thank you, man. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir.
All right, bye.
Hoppe Hour. Hoppe Hour.